Good morning, YouTube. So, this is a video response to Man Up Power Up's video called 7 Questions That'll Make Atheists Think. They're pretty simple questions, so I figure we'll make a short video response and see where it goes from there. So let's jump right in. Question 1. Do you believe that energy always existed? Yes. Energy has always existed. And then question 1a says, can energy create itself? No, it can't create itself. It always existed, and the idea of something creating itself is completely nonsensical anyway, since in order to be able to do something, you have to be in existence, and as such, you have to already be in existence. If you are already in existence, you can't thus create yourself. So, sort of the way logic works. But in any case, question 2 is, has matter always existed? No, matter has not always existed. Matter came about later on in the formation or the development of our universe, so to speak. Energy may have always existed, but matter itself has not always existed. The corollary question to that, has matter always existed, is, can matter create itself? And the answer to that question is no, matter can't create itself, but through the laws of physics and natural laws in general, matter can arise out of a matterless situation, such that it doesn't create itself. It's just the development of the universe was such that at one point there was no matter, and it progressed until there is matter. The notion of it creating itself, like I already said, is nonsensical, but that doesn't mean that there has always been matter. It just is an emergent property of the universe that matter has come into being. Question 3 is, do you believe a mass of matter and energy rotated until it exploded? And what I think he's trying to get at here is, do you believe in the Big Bang, basically? It's not really clear. I mean, I could believe that at some point there was a bomb that was rotating and then it exploded, and so the answer would be yes, even though it doesn't really address the substance of this question. So, even though there's some basic misunderstanding of what the Big Bang entails and all of that, I mean, there's no matter in the Big Bang. It was all energy at that point. But even still, that the Big Bang occurred is something that I think, well, I know I believe in, and most atheists, I think, would agree. Sure, there was, and most reasonable people in general, there was a Big Bang. Sure. This becomes more clear in his 3AA question of, do you believe that all the matter and energy in the universe was created in a Big Bang 14 billion years ago? And the answer to that is no. The Big Bang didn't create all the matter and energy in the universe. It was just an event that spread it out from the point of singularity at that point in time. It's not that the Big Bang was creating anything. The Big Bang is just it's an explosion or a rapid expansion of space and time, not a creation event. It's an expansion event of things that were already in existence. His next 2 corollary questions have to do with testing the viability of the Big Bang and whether or not people were physically there to see it when it occurred. And that's founded on a fundamental misunderstanding both of the scientific method and of what it takes to what we mean by evidence of an event, and by observable, testable, repeatable evidence. The fact of the matter is, though we weren't there personally to see the event occur, doesn't mean we can't test and observe and repeat experiments that give us an indication of what might have occurred. I mean, this is the foundation of all forensic science, for instance. Just because we weren't there to see a murder happen doesn't mean that we can't know a murder happened, even though we weren't there to physically witness it. There are things that have occurred because of that occurrence. There's stab wounds in the victim, for instance, to use our murder analogy. And with regards to the Big Bang, there's evidence that it has occurred because of, there are ramifications that it would have. For instance, background radiation of the universe and that sort of thing. So his question of wouldn't your tests be based on the assumption that it happened since no one was there to observe it is completely ridiculous, because the whole point of scientific experimentation is you come up with there's a list of things that have to, if this thing has occurred, then you make predictions about stuff you don't know yet to see, and then you look for the evidence whether or not it's there. If you don't have any evidence backing you up, then your hypothesis is incorrect. And if you do have evidence to back it up, then excellent on you. Good job on your well-crafted foray into the scientific endeavors. I'd like also to make a quick side point here. When he, in his questions, he says he wants it to be 100% infallible, non-opinionated, empirical proof on whatever. He says it a number of times throughout his questions, and I think he misunderstands something very fundamental about, well, empirical proof, for one thing, and its relationship with fallibility, and what empirical proof is generally. Often his questions that he's asking don't have empirical answers because he's looking for a rational answer, an answer based in logic and reason, which, I mean, empirical answers are rational and logical, but not all rational and logical answers are empirically solved, so to speak. So I think there's a bit of a confusion as to what constitutes an empirical answer, first of all. And second of all, given that our senses are fallible, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with me on that, they are fallible, and as such, you can't have empirical proof that's 100% and 100% infallible, because we're fallible creatures. So I'm not really sure what he's looking for with regards to answers to those sorts of questions. His question number 4, and I think is best summed up with regards to his movie analogy, where he says, if you jump into the middle of a movie, is the end going to make any sense, because even though you've missed the beginning? And the answer to that is, well, at first it depends on the movie, but in a really well-written movie, then yeah, you can understand the end even though you've jumped in the middle, because there's flow from the middle to the end such that all of the events from wherever you're at make sense and are tied up. You may miss some of the minor details of why something is happening, but in a well-written movie, even if you jump in the middle, you should be able to pick up what's happened before, because there's continuity throughout the movie, and as such, even though you've jumped in halfway through, it's not like it's complete randomness. There's a definite story, there's a plot that can be followed, and so well-written movies can be understood even though you don't have the very beginning. And I'd also like to say, when you say jump in the middle, I'm presuming you mean anywhere, not necessarily the exact middle. If you don't watch the opening credits of a movie or a television show, you're not going to be missing out on much of what's going on. So the further back you can go, you don't have to go to the very beginning in order to get an understanding of what's going on. And so when you're extrapolating that to talking about the universe, so you can't see from the very, very beginning, and as such you can't understand anything. It's ridiculous. Of course we can understand things. We have the ability to extrapolate, and from the data that we have, and since we live in an ordered universe, that extrapolation should hold. He then goes on to say that he assumes that there's an intelligent designer because he can't 100% prove one, but he believes it anyway. But the thing is, assumptions are only useful if you have some sort of evidence to point you towards why you should think that. And if there's evidence suggesting that that assumption is wrong, then you should probably give up that assumption. Without having concrete reasons for believing things, assuming things willy-nilly is a stupid idea, because then you have no way of knowing whether or not what you believe is true.